Hello everyone, my name is Łukasz and this is the Game Engineering Podcast. This time, I'd like to talk about the upcoming change for this channel. You see, I started this podcast because at some point along my journey, while learning graphics programming, I had this moment of realization when I discovered a fact, like a cool trick. I was so mesmerized and I wanted to share this. I wanted to dig deeper, understand more, and spread this knowledge. There are such marvelous tricks in graphics programming that it blows my mind, and I just want to talk about it. There's this one trick in particular that I just loved, and I need to tell you this. When you're doing any 3D transformations, so imagine you're in an engine and you want to render a bottle of wine on a table in a given place. You need to know where the place is. So what you start with is 3D points in the 3D space, and you need to express a 3D transformation somehow. And what usually happens is you express this transformation as a 3D matrix. And this way, if there's a bottle on the table, if you want to know where the bottle is, you can apply the transformation coming from the table and then coming from the bottle itself. So if you imagine the table is rotated a little bit and the bottle is knocked over, and you have a 3D matrix that represents rotation of the table and also rotation for the bottle, if you multiply those two, you will have a end transformation and rotation, like combined rotation for the bottle. Right? So if you multiply two matrices together, you get the proper thing that you need to multiply all your points, starting points of the bottle, in order for the bottle to be in the proper rotation. But you need to go through all the from the point 0 to all of the objects that are stacked on top of each other to make this work. So you need to multiply all the transformations in between. And this works because you can express a rotation by a 3D matrix. And this is awesome. And you can do the same thing with scaling. So if you have a scaling matrix, you can make something bigger with a scaling matrix. You represent this as 3D rotation, you multiply your points by this 3D matrix, and it works. And it's great because on GPUs love to multiply matrices. They have so many cores to do that, and multiplying matrices is highly parallelizable. And the issue comes with translation. So scaling and rotation can be expressed as a 3D matrix, but translation cannot. So you need to add a vector, basically. You have a translation vector, and to the 3D point you need to add it. But it breaks the mathematics, and it no longer can be parallelizable, because you'll need to wait for the first addition to finish so that you can multiply it, and then you'll need to add additional translation. So for example, from the table and then from the bottle. It's awful. And someone figured out that you can invent a fourth dimension. You can encode the translation vector in the fourth column. And this way, you can multiply your points, now 4D points, kinda like you add additional one, like you don't care, and you multiply by this 4x4 matrix, and then you can divide by the fourth, and it works. And it can be expressed as a 4x4 matrix. It's awesome. This thing blew my mind. It's not like somebody made this up from scratch. It's discovered from the properties of the world that surround us. This is so cool that you can do this. I love it, and I want to talk about this. I want to talk with people that work with such things on a daily basis, and graphics programming is full of it. But graphics is not the only space where these things happen. There are so many cool things in places like operating systems, editors, tooling in general, programming languages. They have nothing to do with games and graphics. And that's why I would like to expand this podcast to feature also those people who spend their hours on these cool problems so that they can share this with the world. And I was thinking about a proper name for the podcast because game engineering will not apply then. And I have a name that is not easy for a non-Polish speaker to pronounce easily, but it can be written in an English way. So you probably have seen this if I started to put this under my name in the interviews. So I decided to use this as the proper official name for the podcast. So with that said, welcome to Łukasz Podcast.